Alright, my lovers, and welcome back. This is Matic, and thank you once again for joining. So in this series we looked at basic core combat skills from the game of The Witcher 3. So we were looking at swordplay and blocking and crossbow abilities. So this second episode we're going to take a look at one of the core elements you use in combat to give you an advantage, which is signs, as they're called in The Witcher 3. So there are 5 signs altogether, and I'm not going to look at builds now. I'm just going to look at the basics of each ability, and I'm going to look at builds in a later video. But signs are accessed through a menu that you can see in game here. You can actually scroll through and choose which sign you want. Now the sign you're going to choose will be heavily dependent upon the situation you find yourself in, and more importantly the enemy that you are fighting against, because each of these signs enemies have a vulnerability to, and you need to, using your bestiary in the game, pick and choose the skills that you think are best suited to that opposition at the time. To have a quick look at the bestiary, let's give you let's pick one at random, an example of spectres. Okay, so spectres, there's a number of different noon wraiths you'll see quite often, and night wraiths. So noon wraiths, let's pick that one. If you see that we've got noon wraiths in the middle under the picture, if you scroll across to there, it tells you what they're vulnerable to. So moon dust, which is a bomb you can craft, spectre oil, which is an oil you can make in alchemy and apply to your sword, and then in the signs, Oden, Yyrd, however you want to pronounce it, that is a trap. That's one of the signs that you would use whenever you're fighting most of these spectres, I think. So if you look at night wraiths, plague maidens, they're all pretty susceptible to these Oden attacks. Likewise, if you are to pick, let's say necrophages, they will all be, no, maybe not. They're all susceptible to different signs. That's interesting. Shows what I know. So Quen and Igni. Igni is your fire attack. So as you can see, once you're attacking, so you get boss fights with some of these creatures. They're not vulnerable to signs. There you go. So again, Igni and Axii. So when you get into a boss fight, it's really important, especially if you're playing on the higher levels of difficulty in the game. It's really, really important that you do your preparation, you get the right ores, but more importantly, you pick the right signs for the fight. So let's run through them one by one. First off, you have, let's start with the order they go in the menu. Keep it simple for you. And for me. So these are your signs. First attack, with the one you'll use very early on in the game, is Yyrd. However you pronounce that. Yyrd. A directed blast of telekinetic energy that staggers opponents, leaving them open for subsequent attack. Now this is basically your standard telekinetic blast. So Yyrd is over there on the right, so if I pick that and give you a flavour of it, you just bang. Yyrd is used in a number of situations. When you use this, and if you're in combat for example, and you use Yyrd, it will stagger an opponent and you can get him with a couple of quick attacks, and you can't block them. So it's a really good way of staggering opponents. You'll find that you can use Yyrd as well in some of the dungeons you'll encounter. There'll be some walls which are crumbling, and you can use Yyrd as an attack like that to knock the walls down. It's a really useful attack. As you get through the later levels of this, you can actually use it as a knockdown as well, which in a one-on-one combat situation, if you use Yyrd like that and it knocks people over, you can just walk up and you'll stick a sword right through their chest while they're on the floor. So Yyrd, really good, an insta-kill. I didn't want the map, thank you. So the next one along in the signs, in the basic signs abilities, we're looking at Igni. Now this is one that I think most players will recognise. They use it a lot. It's a basic all-round fire attack, very good. It starts off at the very basic level with a fire blast. It scales with any, as do all of these signs, it scales with any sign intensity abilities that you have. So you can get sign intensity on weapons, on clothing, on rune stones. You can also, and I'll cover this in a later episode, use these boxes in the middle here to actually put skills in there and enhance them using something called mutagens, which you loot. Anyway, Igni, it's a fire attack at its basic level, it's a fire blast. You can see I've put 4 points in it, so I use it quite a lot. So let's select it, Igni's there in the middle, and it's basically fire attack. Now at later levels, this also, I think, let's get it. So you'll see, I'm just going to quickly dip into this. It does not on that level. I think it has a chance to burn, which is basically a damage over time. So if it leaves your opposition burning as well. So it's a fire attack. It's also very useful for lighting candles, such like. So in later levels as well, you can get this like a streaming fire attack. So those of you who are familiar with World of Warcraft, it's like the flames attack, where you can just continually spout flames from your hands. The stamina bar draining while you do it. Now I do know, and it doesn't say in here, but the Igni, it does leave enemies burning, and I'm sure I read somewhere that it has a chance to burn. It might be in some of the later levels, but certainly when I've used it, there you go. Increases the chance to apply burning by 20%. So it does apply a burning on, but there is a chance to apply burning, and I think it obviously scales with the sign intensity, and the further down the skill tree you get for that attack. So that's Igni. Oden, this is an absolute must-have when you're fighting anything like noon raids, and essentially it's just a trap that you put on the ground. But if you don't have this trap down, you cannot attack noon wraiths or anything like that. The a spectre class. So this is a trap. It puts a series of runes around you, as you can see, and what you have to do is entice the wraith or whatever spectre you're fighting into this circle. If you don't get them into the circle, you cannot attack them. The other benefit of having the Oden attack is, you will see here, it's a magic trap that slows enemies who enter its area of effect as well. So not only does it actually expose wraiths for attack, but it also slows as well. Depending on how far down the skill tree you go, you can actually... Oh, sorry, my phone's going. Depending on how far the skill tree you go, you can actually increase the number of traps and mode charges that you put down to the number of charges the trap has, etc. So that's Oden. Absolutely must have. I think at the moment I have it so I can apply 2 traps at a time. So if you're really clever, you... No. I had 2 traps running the other day, so go figure. Maybe that was on my other character. So that was Oden. Now if we take a look at the Quen sign. Quen it's basically a shield. Oh, sorry. I'm not getting very good at these buttons. Must be old age. It's a protective shield that lasts until it's absorbed damage totaling 5% of your maximum vitality, so your maximum health, and you can actually put points into obviously increasing your health. At later levels you can have your exploding shield, so your shield will explode when people attack it and it will knock them back and deal some damage. Now, excuse me, your basic Quen shield, if you just watch very carefully now, I'll just pop the shield and you'll see that little yellow line that's whizzing around me. That's my shield. If any enemy was to attack me now, they'd hit it. Because I've got exploding shield, it would pop, but it basically stops you taking any damage. The next step up that I've got it as well is I can invest points in... Nope, not on this character. I'm thinking maybe some skills don't work out of combat. Oh, I tell you why, it's because I haven't put it into the middle. I haven't put any of these skills into the middle. I haven't built anything on it. But basically, you can hold it, and the shield will stay in place like a sphere around you. So that's it. It's a defensive ability which can also give you a pushback and create opportunity for you in combat. Axii and Igni are the 2 that I use the most for general combat. So when I'm fighting deserters or bandits or drowners, which just seem to be an infinite supply in the game, I use Axii and Igni the most. So Axii is Charm. It's an opponent. It basically stuns people, so it removes somebody from combat. It's like a crowd control ability. It's very difficult to show you without any opposition here, but Axii, there it is. So you can pop it, and it'll do that sign in the air, and if you've got whatever you target you've got under your cursor or where you're looking, it will just basically stun that creature. You'll see a white glow around their head. Let's see if I can just show you as an example. Pick one here. Let's pick a creature. There you go. Okay, and okie dokie. You're not going to let me get this skill off. There you go. So there you can see it's a stun, it just takes them out of combat. It doesn't last very long at the moment because my abilities aren't built, but that I use more than anything, especially if you have like an archer who can do quite a lot of damage to you whilst you're out of combat. Whilst you're there at range. I often run in and will put a stun on them just to take them out of combat. So that's it for the signs, I think. Let's have a quick look. As I said in later videos, in a later video I'm going to look at how you use all of these different abilities between combat and your signs to build for the right fight. So that's Axii, which is your stun, Quen, which is your shield, Oden, which is your trap, Igni, which is your fire attack, and then Yyrd, which is your telekinetic blast. Important to remember the names as well, because when you're looking at items that you loot them, it will sometimes say plus 5% or plus 10% for Oden. So knowing what they are and how you're building your character, really important. Alchemy I'm not going to go into in this guide, I think, because that's well, I might do a guide on that and just talk through the different potions and whatnot that you can build. So if I quickly flick through, it's under the alchemy screen. There you go. All of these abilities are very, very important, but I'll cover that in a later episode, as I've said. So for now, those are your signs. Any comments or questions, feel free to drop it below. Thank you.